You know what? I'm finding people, when it comes to betting on this weekend, the Nebraska-Oklahoma game, I've run into more people of late that are not going to touch the game. It's a 3+ touchdown favorite for Oklahoma. 22.5 was a book I checked here during the break. Finding more people that are like, nah, you know what? I'm not that late game score that screws you. Well, do what you will with this. SP Plus, the ESPN metric, Bill Connolly has Oklahoma 39, Nebraska 20. In that case, Nebraska would cover. If it was 39-20, I think people would take it. I think the tone on Big Red Overreaction would be much more to my liking. Instead of 69-20, which if that is the case, we're just going to play music. Just a heads up for people that love Big Red Overreaction. You're with us, right?
I am.
All right, prepare yourself. Prepare yourself.
Oh, no, wait. No, I'm not, actually. That's Stein. My bad.
Did you get out of it?
No, I was going to do it, but then they changed the schedule. So Stein has like 3 in a row, then I have 2 in a row, and then Stein again. I'll be with Michigan State if you'll be around. Late night Big Ten football. Yes.
That is Chance. I'm Gary Sharp Show. Get into Chance your questions for an opportunity to win a gift card to Oscar's Pizza and Grill. See Oliver at NRG Media. Anything goes. As I was saying going into the break about what this series has done to college football and around the country, how it created fans. Because airing at Thanksgiving, everybody's home, everybody's around the TV, they're watching the game. 50 years ago, what did that do to both of these fan bases that watched that game in amazement? The amount of players, 17 of the 22 starters were at least all conference, all Big 8. Most of those were also All-Americans. Most of those also went on to at least a cup of coffee in the NFL. How many fans for both fan bases were created off that game? Chris emails us in the Equitable Bank inbox. I was born in 1970, and so I gained my Husker fandom in the late 70s and early 80s. But honestly, even at a fairly early age, I didn't understand why anyone cared about a national championship from all the way back to the year I was born. I wanted the Huskers to win one now when it mattered, and I remember being crushed watching the 84 Orange Bowl and seeing that pass fall to the ground. But I know a fan on each side that have no connection, because normally if you have a connection to either Nebraska or Oklahoma, you live here, you're an alum, your parents are alum, there's some kind of connection to it. But this series created people that had no connection to either program, either university, either state, and became fans of Nebraska and Oklahoma. I wonder if they are still fans of Nebraska and Oklahoma. 10:43 on the Gary Sharp Show. Coming up at 11:30, Scott Shanley stops by. Mailbag at noon. Parker Gabriel at 1:30. Yesterday was a very, very sad day in the world of entertainment. Sad when the news came out about Norm Macdonald, who after nearly a decade battle with cancer, passed away at the age of 61. In this day and age of social media and tough to keep a secret, great for Norm and everybody around him that knew that they were able to keep this private. Because shock is a description I had when I saw it cross my timeline that Norm Macdonald had passed away. And it was sad to lose one of the best comedians, a comedic genius, who was unusual. But if you follow comedians and you have your favorite comedian, almost every great comedian is defined by an unusual personality. I don't think you can be normal and be a successful comedian, because a lot of your comedy is about your life. And if your life is boring and your life is normal, how is that going to transition into your stand-up or any of your comedy? So Norm Macdonald was definitely an unusual personality. He did not toe the line all the time. Kept telling O.J. Simpson jokes on Saturday Night Live when they told him not to. He lost a major podcast sponsor because they didn't like how he read their ad, but he was unusual. So sad, but then it kind of became a celebration on social media of Norm Macdonald, where there are so many clips that are available on YouTube for people that know of Norm Macdonald, or even those of us that really, really, really loved his body of work, that you could go on YouTube and watch his appearances. He's a top 10 late night guest. That is no debate there. Norm Macdonald was a top 10 late night guest. David Letterman, Conan O'Brien. But all of those are out there, especially his stints with Conan O'Brien. But I highly recommend watching the last time that he was on with David Letterman. That was super emotional. Norm Macdonald was one of the few comedians that got David Letterman to laugh. If you got David Letterman to laugh, that's saying something, and Norm Macdonald did it. If you've not seen his last appearance on Letterman before Letterman retired, go watch that. But people have seen his Saturday Night Live stuff, his Burt Reynolds impersonation, his Weekend Update, the moth joke that he told for 7.5 minutes on Conan O'Brien's show, that you are thinking, okay, where is this going? And it just got funnier and funnier. But it was funny because of the joke, but because of the delivery as well. And that's where, and I kind of, when Conan O'Brien retired from his show in the middle of the summer, I like to study comedians. Full disclosure, John Baylor and myself back in the 90s, we thought about getting into stand-up comedy. And so we studied comedians. And Norm Macdonald was studied, Conan O'Brien was studied, other great comedians back then. So I've always kind of tried to get into the mind of a comedian and what makes them really, really good. Because there's so many comedians now that kind of all run together. Everybody's got a Netflix show. We don't have Eddie Murphy doing Raw anymore. But comedians kind of come and go. But they've all got to find their own shtick and their own place in the world of comedy. And we don't have as many comedy clubs anymore. But we want to laugh. And it's important to laugh. And so I kind of study comedians. And what I said about Conan O'Brien and what made him really good is kind of what I'm going to say about Norm Macdonald. And I think they both shared something in common. And then the really, really good comedians, this benefits them greatly. You were a writer first. Norm Macdonald pulled off a great point about being a very good comedian and taking a joke or a bit to a whole nother level because you are committed to the joke. You don't just, it's part of the act, got to fly right by. You're committed to the joke. And I think what helped him in his comedy is he was a writer on SNL. He was not only one of the players of SNL, he was a writer on the show, which greatly enhanced his ability to be a comedian. There's the story that got shared again yesterday. Norm Macdonald went over to do a stand-up in Iowa City. And he was off the rails, was offending people. People were walking out of the auditorium. The Cedar Rapids Gazette did a story a couple of years ago, trying to track down the story of the night that Norm Macdonald performed in Iowa City and how people were outraged, and he got kicked out of a golf tournament the next day in Iowa City he was supposed to play in. It's a great story about Norm Macdonald and the delivery and the kind of person he is. So it was kind of fun yesterday. I know that's not the right word for when somebody passes away, and especially somebody that fought cancer for a decade. But man, that guy was funny. And watching him with Letterman, if you could make Letterman laugh, you were golden. And Norm Macdonald committed to the joke and the delivery, which is very important, and the timing. He's one of the best. You think about off of the SNL, your favorite comedians and some of the best that came from SNL, whether it be Eddie Murphy, Will Ferrell, some will say Chevy Chase, Tina Fey. Norm Macdonald is right there. I know Mike Schaefer and I, and little plug here for the Hypecast. I'm a guest on their Hypecast on Husker 24/7 this week. Schaefer is a huge Norm Macdonald fan. It hit him hard yesterday. Him and I were discussing some of the great moments of Norm Macdonald's career. And maybe I agreed with Schaefer on this. Maybe you didn't realize, if you were a Norm Macdonald fan, how many other people were in the same category. They loved him until yesterday, where there was an outpouring of love. And all of the outpouring, whether it be an average Gary living in Omaha or a fellow comedian, man, he was loved, and he was so friggin' talented. And we don't have those kind of comedians anymore. They're going for the quick, either quick hit on a bit, instead of working on the delivery to build up to where you go, man, that is funny. Either you got tears in your eyes or you're tinkling. That was Norm Macdonald. All right, 10:51, top of the hour. We'll dive back into some Nebraska, Oklahoma, in the nuts and bolts of the game that is coming up on Saturday at 11 a.m. in Norman, Oklahoma. Who is the game bigger for? Scott Frost or his quarterback? Who is the moment bigger for? The head coach or the quarterback? Who we got to talk about the quarterback who, after a fumble against Illinois and maybe an uneasy performance, or an uneven performance, I should say, against Illinois, the last two games, Adrian Martinez, in now what I've dubbed him Last Dance Adrian, is starting to show off a little bit and show out. We're back with the next hour of the Gary Sharp Show with Chance on 1620 The Zone.